Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Alex and this is The Car Creative. Today I want to talk to you about how I balance my C200 with the eyepiece on my DJI Ronin 1. So it's not the M, it's not like any of these smaller versions, it's the first version they came out with. And I found a way to balance my C200 on it to make some crispy footage. I'm going to walk you through how I set it up, some of the accessories I use to make it convenient to get all the buttons, and then as well walk you through some of the settings that I change inside the C200 to make sure that I still have control over aperture, ISO, white balance, all the autofocus features. Let's dive in. I'll show you guys everything that I know. Okay guys, so first thing we've got to do is we've actually got to disassemble the C200. So what we're going to do is actually unplug the video cable. We're going to actually take off the handle entirely so that it'll fit on there. We don't really need anything from this, we just need the screen. So all these like loose parts that you'll find, I actually just screw them back into the top here. Find that works. Now the Ronin comes with a bag of Allen keys. These ones here, if you have this, that's great. If you don't, I mean obviously just any good old Allen key will do the trick. And we are looking to take off this screen here because we are gonna put it in a fancy place on our Ronin. Once you've got that undone, find a nice place to keep this, which again, I just kind of keep them screwed in on the handle itself. The next thing that we need to do is actually take the handle off of the C200 here. So what I've found after a lot of use, it's actually best to be very, very, very delicate with this cable. Don't just yank on it because it's going to get wrecked over time if you're putting this on and off your Ronin often. So I grab it at a thick point and then just try and as carefully as I can wiggle it out, but it's in there pretty good. Today we are using the Sigma 18 to 35 millimeter. It's one of my favorite lenses to pair with the C200 as it has a low aperture of 1.8 and then it's got a decently wide range with 18, which ends up being around 24. And then you can go all the way to 35. And the beauty of it is when you zoom in or zoom out, it actually doesn't extend the barrel at all. So it keeps the balance of the Ronin in the same spot, which is a beauty. So now I'm going to show you how I mount this onto the DJI. The Ronin comes with this awesome base plate. And on this base plate, it has lens support essentially, which I learned actually keeps the vibration of the camera and the lens the same. So when the motors are trying to work hard, this kind of helps support, I don't know, whatever those vibrations are doing that can kind of funk you up a bit. It comes with a screw on the bottom. Again, I keep this in the same hole so that I know which one, when I'm mounting it on the bottom of my C200, which one to put it in. There's a big hole and a small hole. I'm using a big screw. I don't know if you can see that on the Ronin. And then I just make sure to plop it in there as best as I can. Now, you will notice that the lens support actually does go over top of the focal length adjuster, essentially, of the lens. But that's okay because we actually keep that on loosely so that we can still adjust this with some support. Now, one other tool that I have found to be incredibly helpful to keep on you at all times is this little Gerber dime. It's like one of those all-purpose pocket knifey things. It's not that fancy, but it does have a screwdriver on it, a knife, kind of anything you need out in the field, a little pair of scissors. But the screwdriver is what I use most. So you want to make sure that you got this thing lined up as straight as you possibly can and then tighten it in there as good as you can. I tend to loosen up this lens thing, make sure that's free. So this is connecting in all the right places, it's straight. And then once you've got that, I place this thumb firm on there, tighten this up, and that should do it. Once we've got that set, we are going to try and line it up here. And it just kind of slides in like any base plate would. You can hear it lock there, so it's not going to fall out, which is great. Okay, so once you've got this thing kind of on there, there's 3 adjustment points that you need to essentially worry about. The first one you're going to need to worry about is this forward and back. So you can see that if you place it too far forward, it's going to sit forward. So your initial objective is to just kind of get this thing sitting as balanced as you can. And then once you have that set, there's a little lever here. Lock that in. And it should be okay. Get that to a decent spot and then you'll be all right. There's 2 adjuster knobs, I guess we'll call them, here that you can loosen. that you can adjust if it goes left or right. And again, you just want this to be as centered as you can without going off. Again, just kind of get eye level with it, do your best. And then once you've got that locked in, you can tighten these back up. All right, so the thing that's the biggest struggle with the C200 on this Ronin, when you've got a C200 with an eyepiece instead of the C200B, which is designed for gimbals, once you adjust it up this way, like you need to, the eyepiece gets in the way. So that's less than ideal. So essentially what I have learned to do is bring that down to ground zero, and I just kind of bring it up to a certain point, lock it in, and then start making adjustments either way. You start low, and then you just kind of scoot it up as much as you need till you find that perfect balancing point. Now this, as you can see, tilts forward and back. So if that's ever happening on any of your gimbals, essentially what you need to do is move it up. So I'm taking note of the little markers that are on the side here, and then just adjusting it one marker at a time or so as you kind of need. And you just play with it until it's perfectly balanced. Now what I mean by perfectly balanced is you should be able to put this in almost any position. Forward, backward, you should be able to tilt it like this and this, and that's how you know you're gonna have a perfectly balanced camera. So I still need to go a little bit up, so I'm gonna take it one more notch here. Okay guys, so I'm happy with that. Essentially when I put it any direction, it's not going resetting any faster than these motors are not capable of handling. So I'm gonna stick with that for now. My settings are at 6 and about 7 notches. So if you've got a similar setup, try that, and then of course balance it forward and backwards for yourself. All right guys, at this point in the process, I highly recommend that you go and get the DJI Assistant app, because when I'm about to turn this on, it has the potential, and if you've ever run into this issue where your Ronin just starts to shake and it goes insane and you're like, oh crap, I must not have balanced it right. But I mean, we did balance it right. So the next step is to go into this DJI Assistant app, and you're gonna get the motors adjusted properly for the camera. Okay, so we're gonna turn this on. So here you can see device selection now. Then from here, we're gonna go into motor and auto tune stability. So these numbers here you can see is how much power essentially the motor is having to use away from zero to make sure that it's balanced. So those numbers are actually really quite good. But for the sake of the video, guys, hit auto tune stability. Specifically if your Ronin is freaking out, you definitely want to do this. It will start pushing the limits and seeing where it can balance its best. All right, there you go. So now the motors are set. Okay guys, now that we've got this balanced and the motors are set the right way, we're gonna start accessorizing this thing. So I'm gonna show you how I set up the screen that we really need so that we can still control the C200, and some of the accessories that I use to get it on there. So one of the accessories that I use often is this small rig clamp. They're like super cheap, but you can put them up on these bars here, clamp them on, and it's got a 1/4 inch thread on here that you can mount monitors like this, or like our small HD monitor, which we're going to be mounting later. Super helpful piece. So we are going to be mounting our monitor on here. So you can see I'm actually doing the bottom thread. There's a side thread and a bottom thread, and we are using the bottom thread. Something to note, when you plug this in, it's actually going to change the balance of your DJI Ronin. This is actually going to start pulling it. Now you can, if you want, you can readjust your Ronin so that it is adjusted properly, but that said, your motors can handle it. For the sake of time, I used another small rig clip here attached to a 702 small HD monitor. We've got an HDMI cable that I wrap around the handle to keep it clean, and down, plug it into the side. Now again, you can rebalance if you like, but I'm just going to leave her there. One more accessory. So for audio, we've got this like odd little hot shoe connector that I screw into the top here. DJI naturally gives you a couple of these kind of things on here, so I just use one of those. and then attach my Video Mic Pro. It just screws in there. Now you run into an issue here, well, this isn't long enough. So that's where an extension cable comes in, where you've got an 1/8 inch extender. So you can plug one into your mic input, and obviously the other end of your mic into the other end, so that it reaches. Now it's important to remember to switch your mic settings to input, so it's picking up from the mic input instead of the XLR inputs or the onboard mic that it has. Okay guys, we're almost there. There's just there's a couple of major settings that we're going to switch on the C200 to make sure that this screen is super usable, and we can use this just as kind of our viewfinder. We want to make sure that we can still use all of our autofocus features and control aperture and ISO, which if you have the C200 on the handle, you control your aperture with that control dial. So we're actually going to switch the control dial on the camera to be our aperture, and then we can still control the functions of our camera using this function button here. So one of the first and most major functions we're going to change on here is changing the control wheel to be iris. If you go into your second menu here, or farthest from the right, you can change your settings. We're going to go over to the 4th page to camera control dial, and we currently have it set to ISO and gain. We're going to click in on that, switch it to iris, so that when we exit out of that menu, use our control dial, we can see that it can control our aperture, which is awesome. Then we still have our function button here, which can control our ISO. It can control our color balance and anything else that we can control down in the sub menu. Now the next thing is this display button. We don't really need that to be display, as there is an additional button on the camera. So we're actually going to change that to be our autofocus feature. A quick hack you can do is if you hold menu down on the camera and then press the button, any quick action button on your camera, it'll do a quick cut to whatever you want that to be. So you hold menu, I press 2 display, and I want to change that to autofocus lock. So then when I press that, it locks or unlocks my autofocus. So when I'm running with the camera, I can grab focus on what I want, lock it in, and then do my camera move. Super helpful. Okay guys, so there you have it. This is how I set up, run, and function with my C200A with the eyepiece. And you can see there on the down tilt, the eyepiece runs into the back a bit, but in actual filming circumstances, I've never actually run into any issues with how I practically use it. Alright, so there you have it guys. That is how I set up my C200 with my DJI Ronin 1. I'm assuming that some of these accessories and the way it's set up will adapt to maybe some of the other Ronins, like the later MX versions with your cameras, or if you're using the DJI Ronin 2, then let me know in the comments below. Is it worth it? Because, I mean, looking to get one of those, it's a pretty awesome rig. If you guys have any questions, comments, let me know down below. I would love to help you out if I can. Let me know what you think of the rig. Smart, something you would do differently. You have any accessories that you guys use? I will try and link some of the things that I use below that you guys can go hop on Amazon. They are affiliate links, so you guys can buy them. I'll get a little something from Amazon because they're kind that way. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks guys so much for watching, and again, I hope you were able to pick something up from this, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.